you ever wondered, why does she choose him? The quiet guy with presence and depth, over the flashy one with the sports, car and six-figure salary? Why do some women look at certain men like they hold the universe in their hands, even when they don't hold a black card in their wallet? If you've ever chased money, style, or popularity thinking that's what women want, this video will challenge everything you thought you knew. So before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button to support the channel. Subscribe and watch till the end, because these 9 truths, grounded in the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, might just change your love life forever. I want to take you back to a story, one I've seen play out time and time again. A woman walks into a room full of men. Most of them are trying to impress. Laughter, loud voices, over-explaining. One man even brags about buying a new Rolex. But in the corner sits a man, calm, quiet, grounded. He says little, but his eyes hold weight. His posture speaks volumes. He's not trying to be seen. He simply is. Guess who she walks toward? It's not who you think. It's the man who's mastered what money can't buy. And that's what we're diving into today. Here are 9 things women secretly love more than money through the lens of Stoic wisdom. 1. Emotional discipline over drama. Have you ever given your all to someone, your time, your love, your energy, only for them to say, "You're too much"? Or worse, they pull away without a single explanation. You're left staring at your phone, replaying every word, every text, every glance, wondering what you did wrong. You gave love, but maybe you gave your emotions too. Now pause for a second. Think back to your very first heartbreak, the one that changed how you see love. Maybe she said she needed space. Maybe she said you were too intense. Maybe she just disappeared. But let me tell you something that no one probably told you then. Women don't run from emotion. They run from men who let their emotions control them. There's a huge difference. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the key. That's what she's looking for. She wants to feel your depth but not drown in your chaos. She wants a man who feels but doesn't react. Who can sit in the fire of rejection, disappointment, confusion, and still breathe. Let me tell you a quick story. A friend of mine once dated a woman he adored. She was everything. And in the beginning, he gave her all his attention. But the moment she started pulling back, he spiraled, calling, texting, begging for answers. She told him, "You're too emotional." What she meant was, "You don't make me feel safe anymore." Because a man without emotional discipline feels unstable, unpredictable, uncentered. But the man who can be calm when she's chaotic, who can love without clinging, who can hurt without hurting others, that man, she respects him. She remembers him. She chooses him even when she doesn't understand why. So let me ask you, when she pulled away, how did you respond? Did you become more of a man or less of one? Remember, emotional discipline isn't about being cold. It's about being in control. And in a world of men who break under pressure, she'll never forget the one who didn't. 2. Purpose over popularity. Have you ever looked in the mirror after chasing her? After all the compliments, the late replies, the double texts, and felt a little lost? Not because she didn't choose you, but because you forgot to choose you. Now rewind your memory. There was a time, maybe years ago, when you had dreams that had nothing to do with impressing anyone. You were building, creating. Maybe you were focused on your fitness, your craft, your vision, and then she came into your life. Beautiful, magnetic, mysterious, and little by little your focus shifted from purpose to pleasing. You started texting more and training less, started watching her stories and stopped writing your own. But let me ask you this, did she fall in love with the man who chased her, or the man who chased his mission? Marcus Aurelius said it best. What stands in the way becomes the way. A man who chooses purpose over popularity, who chooses meaning over attention, becomes unshakable. Women don't fall in love with men because they're liked by everyone. They fall for the man who's going somewhere. There's something irresistible about a man who wakes up with direction. He doesn't scroll aimlessly. He doesn't complain, he builds. He's not perfect, but he's progressing. And that quiet fire? She feels it even when you say nothing. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a guy I knew, ordinary job, nothing flashy. But every morning before work, he woke up at 5 a.m. to write a book. One day, a woman asked him, "Why do you wake up so early?" He replied, "Because I don't want to die full of unfinished thoughts." She fell in love with that sentence. Not because it was poetic, but because it revealed something rare. He was married to his mission before he ever met her. And that kind of man? She doesn't just love him. She respects him. She follows his lead. She wants to build with him. So ask yourself honestly, are you chasing her? Or chasing your calling? Because the man who finds his path finds his peace, and the man at peace with his purpose will always attract what's meant for him. 3. Integrity over image. When no one's watching, who are you really? Not the version you post on social media, not the guy you become on a date, but the man in the mirror when the lights are off, and the world isn't applauding. Have you ever felt like you had to perform just to be liked? To wear the right clothes, say the right things, play the part just to impress her? It's okay. We've all done it. I've done it. But the truth is, you can't sustain love built on performance, because eventually the mask gets heavy, and the moment she sees past it, it's over. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's not just philosophy, that's freedom. Let me tell you about a guy named Adil. He wasn't rich, didn't drive a luxury car, didn't even have a big social circle, but what he had was rare. Adil never lied to impress a woman, never pretended to be someone he wasn't. He showed up real, flaws, past scars and all. And one day a girl asked him, "Why don't you try harder to fit in?" He looked her in the eye and said, "Because I want someone to fall in love with me, not my image." That woman became his wife. Not because he dazzled her, but because he grounded her. You see, image can be copied. Integrity? That's crafted, and women can feel the difference. She may flirt with the flashy guy, but she'll only build with the man who stands firm in who he is. Because in a world full of filters, fakes, and followers, nothing is more attractive than truth. So ask yourself, do you keep your word even when it costs you? Do you speak with honesty even if it risks rejection? Do you do the right thing, even when no one gives you credit? Because when a woman senses that your values aren't just talk but your foundation, she feels safe. Safe to trust, safe to open, safe to love. Image might turn heads, but integrity wins hearts. 4. Presence over performance. When you're with her, are you really with her? Not physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, because presence isn't about sitting next to her. It's about being so connected in that moment that the world fades and she feels like the only thing that matters. Now think back. Do you remember the first time you held someone's hand and time just stopped? Where even silence felt like a conversation. No jokes, no pretending, just two souls being together. That's presence. And most men lose it the moment they try to perform. You start trying to be witty, trying to impress, trying to be the guy you think she wants. And in doing so, you disconnect from the only thing that actually draws her in. Your authentic energy. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That's the truth. Don't perform, don't prove, just be. Let me tell you about a guy named Samir. He wasn't smooth. In fact, he stuttered a bit when he spoke to women. But when he listened, he really listened. Eyes locked, phone down, no fake nods, no distractions. And you know what? Women adored being around him, because in his presence they felt seen, heard, felt. One woman told him, "You're the only person who actually looks at me like I matter." Think about that. She wasn't asking him to be charming. She wasn't testing his wallet or his jokes. She was just longing for presence. Because presence makes her feel safe. And when she feels safe, she opens. And when she opens, she connects. Not with your words, but with your soul. So ask yourself, when you're with her, do you check your phone? Do you plan what to say next, or do you actually listen? Are you trying to impress or simply trying to understand? Because the man who doesn't need to perform, who is fully grounded in the moment, will always outshine the one who's performing a script. Presence is rare. Performance is exhausting. Choose wisely. 5. Self-control over indulgence. Have you ever lost her? Not because you didn't love her, but because you couldn't control yourself. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe it was lust. Or maybe it was the inability to say no to your impulses. See, most men think women are attracted to what they give. Money, compliments, pleasure, attention. But the truth? A woman is far more drawn to a man who knows how to withhold. Because withholding means mastery. It means you're not a slave to every urge, every emotion, every desire. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." Let that settle in. Now picture this. There's a guy, let's call him Zion. Zion is charming, good-looking, and has options. Women notice him. But what made the woman he truly loved fall deeply for him? Wasn't his looks, his clothes, or even the way he kissed her. It was one night, when she came over upset, emotionally vulnerable, and instead of taking advantage of her softness, he sat her down, gave her tea, and just listened. She told him later, "That's the moment I realized you were different. You didn't act on impulse. You protected me from even my own chaos." You see, self-control is sexy, not in a flashy way, but in a way that builds deep trust. Because the man who can control his cravings, whether for women, power, food, or pleasure, communicates something powerful. I own myself. My mind rules my body. My values guide my behavior. And women? They feel that restraint. They respect that discipline. Because if you can say no to indulgence, you can say yes to something greater, to loyalty, to legacy, to love that lasts. So ask yourself, do you give in to every temptation? Do you chase dopamine? Or discipline? Are you a man ruled by desire or by direction? Because a man who can delay gratification becomes a man women don't just want. They admire. They follow. They trust. And in the long run, that kind of man always wins more than just attention. He wins devotion. 6. Silence over showing off. Why do you feel the need to be seen, to be loud, to prove, to show off what you've done? Now really think about it. Is it for her? Or is it for the part of you that still doesn't believe you're enough? We live in a time where noise is the currency. Instagram highlights, gym selfies, flexing luxury, and most men think that's what impresses women. But you know what's truly rare? A man who walks in silence but moves like thunder. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, while others shout, you stay still. While they perform, you observe. While they brag, you build. Let me tell you about a man named Harris. Harris wasn't on social media. He didn't talk about his money. He didn't interrupt conversations to insert his accomplishments. But when he spoke, people leaned in. When he walked into a room, women noticed, not because he was loud, but because he carried depth. One day a woman asked him, "Why don't you ever talk about what you do?" He smiled and said, "Because people who need to be told usually aren't the ones meant to understand." That woman fell for him, not because he was mysterious, but because he didn't need her to validate his worth. That's the difference. The man who constantly needs to prove himself is usually trying to convince himself. But the man who is silent, he knows what he's worth. He doesn't need noise to prove it. Women crave that because silence signals security. When you're not showing off, you're showing strength. The kind that says, "I don't need your approval. I already have my peace." So ask yourself, do you tell the world every time you achieve something? Do you feel empty when no one praises you? Do you fear silence or do you own it? Because in a world of men who shout, she'll always remember the one who whispered. And when she lies in bed thinking about the man who made the deepest impact, it won't be the one who showed off. It'll be the one who stayed quiet and still made her feel everything. 7. Depth over decorum. Have you ever been with someone and felt completely alone in their presence? Like the conversation stayed on the surface, like everything felt rehearsed, polite, proper, predictable. Now contrast that with the rare person who asks you something that stops you in your tracks. What do you fear when you're alone? What memory still keeps you up at night? What dream did you bury just to survive? That's depth, and that's what women secretly crave more than money, fame, or status. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look." But here's the thing, you can't invite someone else into your depths if you haven't explored them yourself. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Rahil. He wasn't flashy. He didn't have perfect hair or a polished wardrobe. But one night, during a late walk, he looked at a woman and said, "I still remember how I felt when my father left. It made me question if I was worth staying for." There was silence. Not awkward silence, sacred silence. Because in that moment, he wasn't trying to impress her. He was letting her in. Not into his achievements, but into his truth. And you know what she said later? "I felt more connected to you in that one sentence than in entire relationships I've had with other men." That's the power of depth. See, decorum is fine. Being polite, charming, witty, those things matter. But they don't make her feel you. Depth does. It's not just what you say. It's the weight behind your words. It's asking about her childhood instead of her Instagram. It's sharing your shadows, not just your highlights. So ask yourself, do you dare to be real or do you hide behind charm? Do your conversations awaken her or just entertain her? When she thinks of you, does she feel something real? Because in a world of shallow talkers and curated images, she will always remember the man who wasn't afraid to go deep. 8. Boundaries over begging. Have you ever begged for love that was already leaving you? Ever lowered your standards just to keep someone who had already stopped choosing you? Most of us have. You tell yourself, if I'm more patient, if I prove how much I care, maybe she'll stay. And so you give more. You forgive faster. You overlook things that break your soul, just to not lose her. But here's what Marcus Aurelius would say. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And when you beg for love, you paint yourself in neediness. You stop being the man you were born to be and become a shadow of yourself. Let me tell you about a man named Saad. He fell in love deeply, maybe too deeply. She was beautiful, unpredictable, emotionally unavailable, and every time she pulled away, he chased harder. Texted more, apologized for things he didn't do, and every time, she respected him less, until one day something inside him snapped. Not in anger, but in awareness. He realized, I'm not in love with her. I'm in love with the version of me I think she'll finally accept. So he stopped chasing. He went silent. He reclaimed his boundaries, not to punish her, but to protect himself. And do you know what happened? She came back. Not because he begged, but because she finally saw a man who valued himself more than her attention. That's the truth women don't say out loud. They are drawn to the man who walks away from disrespect, not the one who pleads to stay. Boundaries aren't walls. They are doors with locks, and not everyone gets the key. So ask yourself, do you tolerate behavior that makes you feel small? Do you sacrifice your peace just to avoid her silence? Do you chase her approval or protect your self-respect? Because a man who begs becomes forgettable, but a man with boundaries, he becomes unforgettable. You don't lose women. When you set standards, you lose the ones who were never meant to stay, and in that loss you find the real you. 9. Evolution over ego. When was the last time you truly changed? Not because someone told you to, but because you knew you had to? Not surface-level change. Not just a new gym routine or haircut. I'm talking about inner transformation, soul work. The kind of growth that happens after a heartbreak, a failure, a moment of silence that shook you to your core. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." And that's the difference between men who evolve and men who stay stuck in ego. See, ego says, I'm already enough. I don't need to change. But evolution whispers, you are worthy of becoming more. Let me tell you about someone I knew. His name was Daniel. He lost the woman he loved not because he didn't care, but because he refused to grow. Every argument, he blamed her. Every flaw she pointed out, he denied. He was too proud to say, you're right. I need to fix this part of me. And when she left, his ego screamed. She didn't understand me. But deep down in the quiet nights, he knew. She left because I refused to face myself. It took months. Therapy, solitude, long walks with no answers. But slowly, Danielle stopped trying to be right and started trying to be real. And that journey, that evolution, it made him magnetic. He didn't just win her back. He became the kind of man who never needed to lose her in the first place. Because women don't fall in love with perfect men. They fall for the ones who are willing to grow. To say, I was wrong. To learn. To evolve, even when it hurts. So ask yourself honestly, do you defend your flaws or confront them? Do you protect your ego or pursue your evolution? Are you becoming better? Or just better at pretending? Because here's the truth. Ego may win short-term power, but evolution creates long-term love. The man who evolves becomes rare. The man who outgrows his past becomes unforgettable. And the woman who sees you choosing growth will trust you with her heart because you've proven you can take care of your own. The final truth. So Ika, what do women secretly love more than money? It's not the paycheck. It's not the status. It's the man who shows up with discipline, depth, and purpose. The man who's built from the inside out. The man who embodies the Stoic path, not just for women, but for himself. Remember this. Aurelius never wrote to be liked. He wrote to live rightly. And that's what women fall for, deeply and silently. The man who lives rightly. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.